his claim at the moment. We are going to bring you the official announcement live in a few minutes' time. In a statement released by his campaign team ahead of the official announcement, Lord Archer, who of course was contesting the ballot with the former Transport Minister Steve Norris, said, "I am delighted to have won this historic first round in the campaign for London." Apparently he was saying that he'd won around 70% of the 22,000 votes cast. But at the moment, this is the unofficial news from Lord Archer's camp that he's been chosen as Conservative candidate for the job of Mayor of London. More, of course, as we get it, and that official announcement a bit later on.
Hundreds of thousands of people have attended the election to choose the Conservative candidate to be Mayor of London. Hello, you're watching BBC News 24. I'm George Eykyn.
And I'm Valerie Sanderson. The other headlines at 3 o'clock. The French government says it won't lift the ban on British beef.
Safety procedures in Japan are to be reviewed urgently after the radiation leak at Tokaimura. Human error is believed to be the likely cause.
And in sport, the 1999 Rugby World Cup kicks off in Cardiff, with hosts Wales playing Argentina in the first game of the competition.
Well, the Conservative Party is about to announce its candidate for Mayor of London, but Lord Archer has already claimed victory. Lord Archer's campaign team said that he won around 70% of the votes cast in the first round of the selection process. His rival is the former Transport Minister, Steve Norris. Let's cross live now to our correspondent, Francesca Kasteliz, who's at Conservative Central Office. Francesca.
Good afternoon. Well, you've just missed Lord Archer, who had the walk of a victor, I think you could say, as he marched through the press barrage into Conservative Central Office. He had just come behind Steve Norris, who is believed to be the defeated candidate in this Conservative selection for the London Mayor, who walked in also barraged by press. But we understand that Lord Archer is going to be the Conservative candidate for the mayoral election, which will of course take place next May, and the job will start in July. He'll be up against the Labour candidate, who has yet to be selected, and a Lib Dem candidate and a Green candidate. Now, Lord Archer has been campaigning for 2 years to win this post. It was whittled first down to 8 candidates, then to 4, then to 2, just Lord Archer and Steve Norris. And we should expect to hear within the next half an hour an official announcement by the Conservative Party, and then a speech by Lord Archer and Steve Norris. Back to you.
Francesca, just briefly, any body language or reaction from Steve Norris confirming that that is indeed the outcome?
Well, very interestingly, Steve Norris walked here, I'm assuming from the Houses of Parliament just around the corner. Of course, transport was one of his big policies. Lord Archer, though, arrived in a chauffeur-driven limousine, so I don't know what that tells you. But certainly, as I said, Lord Archer's gait was that of a victor. He walked in very slowly, he was quite friendly to the press, posed a little. Steve Norris had a little slower walk in there. He was looking down, he refused to take questions, but apparently they both will be speaking later, so we'll hear from them later.
And of course, Francesca, unlike the Labour contest, which is still sort of at the stage where the rules are being written, this is one where Central Office didn't express a preference. It wasn't trying to push or hold back any of the candidates.
That's right. I mean, I've talked to senior party officials here this morning. They refused to lay their cards on the table and say which candidate they were backing. It seems that Lord Archer's 2 years of campaigning, 1 year unofficially and 1 year officially, has paid off. He's wooed the Blue Rinse Brigade, and he's obviously won the hearts of the London Conservative members here today.
Francesca Kasteliz, we'll come back to you obviously for the official announcement, but many thanks for now.
The French government has decided.
The party leader says he welcomed the decision to have Lord Archer as the Conservative candidate, so it certainly looks as though Lord Archer has got it. We will be going live to Conservative Central Office in this programme for the latest reaction to that, but Lord Archer is the Conservative candidate for Mayor.
And we're back in a couple of minutes with a look at other main news stories and, of course, the
have now confirmed that Lord Archer has won the contest to be the Conservative candidate for the contest for Mayor of London. There is still an official announcement to come on that, and when it happens we will of course take you live to Smith Square. Val.
A British childminder who was found guilty of shaking a 13-month-old baby to death will be sentenced.
You can see the press announced the press conference forming up for the official announcement. Francesca, what do we expect to see here? Will both of the candidates be on that podium?
That's what we're hoping. They both now have arrived within the last 10 minutes to Conservative Central Office. What you're seeing is sort of a bunker. I believe they're just about to walk in. Yeah, there's a round of applause. Steve Norris walks to the platform, followed by Shaun Woodward, the Shadow Minister for London, and Lord Archer at the end, just finding his seat. And I believe it's about to begin.
Thank you very much indeed, and my apologies to all of you for having kept you waiting so long for this result. It's going to be a very exciting few months ahead of us. We are extremely excited about the outcome of this, but I would like to say at the very beginning, before I ask the chairman of the London region of our party to actually give you the precise figures, I think all of us have been impressed by the way the selection process has taken place. And the result, whilst decisive, is also a result which, as you will hear in a moment, indicates a fantastic level of interest by our party in London in this process.
Thank you very much, Shaun. As chairman of the regional party in London, can I too thank all of our members who participated and all who helped in the counting of the votes. 22,301 members of the party voted. That's 58.6% of those who were eligible to vote, and of those, they voted as follows: for Geoffrey Archer, 15,716, for Steve Norris, 6,350, the spoilt ballot papers were 235, and therefore I declare that Geoffrey Archer has been selected as the prospective Conservative candidate for Mayor of London. Thank you.
Chair of the London Region Conservatives making that announcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, this is a declaration of the result. Both the candidates have agreed to briefly address the press conference, and at the end of that I will close the press conference. I'm going to ask, first of all, because we announced this was a declaration of the result, but I'm going to ask, first of all, the winner of this, Geoffrey Archer, to address the press conference. Andrew, thank you very much, but I'm sorry, you're not yet chairing the press conference. We look forward to you being a candidate. Geoffrey.
Geoffrey Archer now getting up to speak. His first speech as the Conservative candidate for the Mayor of
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great honour and privilege to be chosen by the Conservative membership in London to represent the party in this first mayoral election. I want to thank everyone who supported me and all those who contributed to such an open and democratic election process, which our party can be justly proud of. I'd also like to thank all the other candidates in the race for their contribution to what has been a lively and stimulating contest. I should add here that it's taken the forces of conservatism to allow our membership to have taken part in a free election process, and I would strongly urge Tony Blair to follow William Hague's example. The real battle is only just beginning. London is the greatest city on earth, and Londoners will have an important choice to make on May the 4th next year. And in my speech on Wednesday at the party conference, I shall spell out in detail my policies for London. Londoners will expect to be represented by a mayor with energy and vision and enthusiasm, who will voice the views of all its citizens, whatever their background, colour or creed. I relish that task ahead of me. I've been a fighter all my life, and I will use every bit of my energy to make the city in which I was born the safest, the cleanest, the most racially tolerant, the most culturally aware, and the most competently administered. In a sentence, the most civilized city on earth. Thank you.
Lord Archer speaking there.
Thank you very much.
I believe Steve Norris is now going to come up and give his defeat speech, as it were. A little of applause there for him.
Steve. No, come on, Steve. Look, thank you,
ladies and gentlemen.
Steve, excuse me, would you have the courtesy of listening to Steve Norris? Thank you very much.
The row that you're hearing there behind, the row that's going on is an argument over whether questions will be allowed afterwards. Several journalists have been pushing for questions be put to both candidates.
First of all, I want to start with some very sincere thanks, because my campaign wouldn't have encouragement I've had from many, many people who are very dear to me. Mark Fulbrook and his absolutely superb team have been tireless in their efforts over these last 3 months. They've done absolutely everything I could possibly ask of them. Kerry Evans asked me to run months ago and who stood beside me every step of the way on the campaign, whose loyalty and unfailing support has never wavered. He's been a tower of strength to me. I thank him publicly for that as warmly as I can. I want to thank Valerie, Andrew, for their confidence when they agreed to run with me, and I wish every one of them every success in their bids to be candidates for the Assembly. Dozens of party activists, male and female, who did so much for my campaign without any hope of any reward to get the result that they believed their party needed. I want to thank literally the hundreds of people who've wished members of this party and people who are not members of this party. That has been enormously heartwarming. And of course, I want to thank Emma for her constant love and support. Without that, I could never have embarked on this course. And my final thanks, of course, to those thousands of Conservatives who voted for me in this election. I'm deeply grateful to all of them for their confidence in me. It's been a long election, weeks longer than for either a general election or, as it happens, a party leadership election. It has been conducted with impeccable fairness by the staff here at Central Office, to whom I think every candidate owes a debt of gratitude. But it follows that I have no complaint whatever about the result. I am not, as most of you know, in any event, a churlish person, and I remain convinced that one member, one vote is still the most democratic and open way for any party to choose a candidate for an office such as Mayor of London, and Conservatives can indeed be proud of the example that we've set. I've been in this party for more than 20 years. I've always worked hard for the success of it in every election, local, national or European, in which I've been involved. I now pledge myself to do everything I can to ensure the right outcome for the Conservative Party in the mayoral and Assembly elections next year. It's clear that we as a party will have a tough fight on our hands. Thank you.
We're watching coverage of the announcement of the results of the Tory candidate for Mayor of London.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much for coming today. This is the end of the press conference.
We're waiting to see whether or not the Conservative Party allows questions to Lord Archer and Steve Norris. There was, as you heard, some commotion, and it looks like it's continuing now with Michael Crick's voice, among others. He's, of course, Lord Archer's biographer, throwing questions to the now victorious Tory candidate for Mayor of London. It doesn't look as though there's going to be any answer forthcoming to any of the questions to those two men. Just to recap for you, Lord Archer won 15,700 votes and Steve Norris 6,350. The turnout was just under 60% of those eligible. Privilege. It had been a lively and stimulating contest, and he said he relished the task ahead of him. We don't yet know in detail the policies he's going to announce, but we can expect that the Tory conference next week will be used as a launchpad by Lord Archer for a campaign which will include, no doubt, the issues of fixing London transport, improving law and order and the environment in London. More, of course, coming up now with Val.
Lord Archer has been campaigning for more than 2 years to become London's new mayor. He said that winning the Tory nomination was an historic first step in achieving this. Our reporter Graham Satchell looks at his campaign so far.
That is certainly Cook, and it's Metcalfe next to him. Then will be Peter Atkinson, and finally Geoffrey Archer.
In his youth, Geoffrey Archer was one of Britain's top athletes. This is Oxford against Cambridge in 1964. So determined was he to win that more than once he risked being disqualified.
And again it is Archer, I think, who caused it. Now, is he going to be warned again or even pulled out? It looked as he's out.
Oh no, he's not. Not for the first time. The authorities let Geoffrey Archer off with the benefit of the doubt. Jeffrey Archer is still running for the Mayor of London and away from troublesome monkeys.
A good luck banana, surely.
He's been quoted as saying, "I'm vulgar, I'm popularist," but isn't that what the Mayor should be? Jeffrey Archer is that and much, much more. Author, politician, art collector, lord, but as he admits himself, he's far from perfect.
If you're looking for a saint, I won't be your first choice.
Jeffrey Archer was elected to the House of Commons in 1969, but 5 years later he gave up his seat, the victim of a fraudulent Canadian company that lost him £400,000. In 1975 he went to Toronto to testify in the resulting fraud trial. While there, a man called Jeffrey Archer was apprehended for allegedly shoplifting 3 suits, and there's a charge sheet with a name and a description. The man said he hadn't realised he'd left the shop when he was caught with the suits. But the real Jeffrey Archer has always denied he had anything to do with it.
Were you arrested on suspicion of shoplifting in Toronto, as some people believe, or were you not?
Are there any other questions on London?
Equally puzzling are the events of 1994.
The Department of Trade and Industry has said that the senior Conservative Lord Archer is being investigated for alleged insider trading.
Jeffrey Archer's wife was a director of Anglia Television. He bought and sold shares when the firm was in secret takeover talks. But again, he denies any wrongdoing.
The DTI concluded that, quote, should take no further action against any of the parties concerned with the investigation. As far as I'm concerned, the matter is closed.
Lord Archer's colourful past has obviously had no major influence on rank-and-file Tories, who see him as the vigorous and able politician he clearly is. Whether the rest of London's voters will be so charitable, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, now let's go back to Smith Square and join our correspondent Francesca Kasteliz, who's outside Tory Central Office. Francesca, it was quite obvious that although Steve Norris was saying he had no complaints, he wasn't going to be churlish about being beaten, he certainly didn't say, and I will now fall into line and back Lord Archer for Mayor. How many other Tories do you think share those doubts about Lord Archer?
Well, that's difficult to say because up until now, nobody has really laid their cards on the table. The Conservative Party has refused to come out in favour of either one of the two candidates. Now Lord Archer has won. It will be a waiting game to see which side people fall on. I spoke just shortly ago, just as we were coming out of the press conference, to Stephen Norris, and I said, would you be backing Lord Archer? Would you be publicly backing Lord Archer? And he said he'd be making a statement later on. Clearly did not want to talk to the press.
And briefly, Francesca, before you turn to your guest I know you've got with you, do the Tories lose out, do you think, if the actual contest goes into the realms of second preference votes? It was argued that Steve Norris had a wider appeal, that even some Labour supporters might have put him down as a second preference. Is that something they may come to regret?
I think that could be the case. I mean, Lord Archer is a character. He's had what might be described, what has been described as a colourful past. Now, whether that will stand in good stead with the wider public of London, because remember, this vote today, this ballot counting today, was only Conservative Party members. When it actually goes out to the whole of London, to be your average Joe public voting for that. So maybe that kind of characterful, colourful past will appeal to some people. They would vote him as the first person, but are unlikely to choose him as a second choice. So yes, that could mean that the Conservative Party have sort of shot themselves in the foot in a way. I'll turn now, anyway, to Michael Crick, who is with me. He's the unofficial biographer of Lord Archer. You were in that meeting. Now, I know there was a lot of trouble before that meeting. You weren't allowed in, then you were allowed in. It was quite a stormy meeting, wasn't it? Because they didn't take any questions afterwards.
I don't think I've ever attended a more farcical press conference. First of all, I was manhandled by Jeffrey Archer's aide, Stephen Shakespeare, and his chauffeur, pulled away as Archer arrived, and I was trying to ask him about the Anglia shares affair. When I tried to go through the door of Central Office, a large gentleman took me to one side and tried to ask me questions and tried to make it clear that I wouldn't be welcome if I asked any questions in the press conference, and was very rough with me verbally.
Okay, well, those are allegations, obviously.
No, they're not allegations, they're the truth.
Well,
they're the truth, there's no doubt about that. This was all filmed on camera.
Right.
And then once we were in the press conference, we weren't allowed to ask any questions. I mean,
what questions would you have liked to ask Lord Archer?
I think that the question that I wanted to ask, and which everybody else should be asking, all broadcasters and journalists, is how does Jeffrey Archer explain his dealings in Anglia shares 5 years ago when he bought and sold shares in Anglia Television at the time that his wife was a director of the company. Now, there was a DTI, confidential DTI inquiry into that. That's never been made public. This is a very, very important issue. It's a question of integrity and character, because the new mayor of London will have a role in promoting London as a financial capital. And if it is suspected, as some people do, that Archer was insider trading, that is very serious indeed. The other problem is that there was a story in The Economist last week that said that some of the profits of that share dealing went to the Conservative Party.
Okay, we're getting into the finer details now.
They are important, those details.
Do you think, though, Lord Archer has a serious chance of winning come the elections next May? We don't know who he'll be standing against, the Labour candidate, but we know the other candidates. Has he got a serious chance of winning?
I think, for a start, I think there is a possibility that Lord Archer won't actually be the Conservative candidate next May. I think the pressure of events may be such that he is eventually forced to resign as candidate. But I think that even if he is the candidate, I think Labour will win. The election system is such that because of the redistribution of votes, it's very, very difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult for a Conservative to win. And although there will be some people who like Lord Archer's novels and vote for him, there will be a lot of Conservatives who don't like Archer and who will vote for Livingston or whoever.
Yes, indeed, Lord Archer has admitted that his past, he hasn't been a saint in the past, and that may have counted for him. Do you think, though, the people of London will be able to trust him?
I don't think that until Archer answers those important questions about his past life, that he has earned our trust. He has clearly lied in the past about having a degree from an American university. There's no doubt about that. He has failed to answer.
There must be something about him, though, because he keeps bouncing back.
Undoubtedly does, yes. I mean, you should never write him off, and I'm sure that even if he doesn't win the election this time, he'll be coming back next time round and running for mayor then.
Thank you very much indeed, Michael Crick. Sorry to stop you in full flow. Well, I'll now hand you back to the studio with the news that Lord Archer has won the Conservative selection to become the Conservative candidate for Lord Mayor of London.
Francesca Kasteliz at Central Office, many thanks. You're watching BBC News 24.